You come across an obstacle, and you are this solution-oriented individual where you want to solve this problem by being enterprising and not just put it aside. I think that is being entrepreneurial. And also within our own community, there were confusions. In the 12 5-year plan, we had the flagship program for Continuous One Industries. But I think the support that has come out has been, it's been more of a blanket.
Hello everyone, welcome to our podcast series on Entrepreneur Bhutan. And for this week, for our Global Entrepreneurship Week, we have Mr. Sangay Tshering, who is the founder of Greeny Solutions and also serving as the president of Loden Foundation. And today, since the theme is on entrepreneurship for all, we would like to really delve further into understanding the entrepreneurial ecosystem, what it entails, and have a conversation around what does it mean to be an entrepreneur in Bhutan, and also understanding the landscape, the environment around it, and the sort of the business ecosystem in general. So without much further ado, I would like Mr. Sangay Tshering to maybe introduce yourself further and maybe give your take on entrepreneurship, since this is a long time coming, and please go ahead.
Thank you for having me here, and Somcha for hosting me. I'm Sangay. Started my journey 15 years ago with a tech startup business, and I still make a living from my tech firm, which I co-founded. But passion takes me other places. Also, I always share the story that you could be driving a fancy car, but then again, the moment you come out, if you have bumpy roads, what's the real point of having a fancy car? Such questions, I think, arise to a lot of Bhutanese. And that's where I parked my founder's journey and rather decided to become an ecosystem builder. I would also like to share that not many of us are given the opportunity, also blessed with so many factors which come into play, where you actually get to have the convenience of or the comfort of being a volunteer and working for an organization. And I'm blessed to have that comfort. With Loden Foundation, the journey of the Loden Entrepreneurship Program, it's 16 years plus going on. The role that Loden plays is a very small role in the big spectrum of what can be done. We come in with the seed financing, and over the past 16 years, we have seed financed 301 businesses. I am not sure if startup would be the right word, but we have supported 301 small businesses, medium businesses, some to actually kickstart the business, and for some to actually enhance their business. And this is where we come in with seed financing. We also work on mentorship. We believe that through our program, we have been able to create a community of Bhutanese entrepreneurs who have been successful from within the Loden ecosystem and outside the Loden ecosystem. So this is where we come in. And on my journey and being part of the Loden Foundation, which gave me a little more depth in what actually happens, gave me time and actually made me think more. A lot has been done, but I think a lot still needs to be done. And also comparing to different ecosystems around the world, Bhutan being small, we do not necessarily have to go the same way as everybody else. But then again, it also poses a question of what needs to be customized for a Bhutanese need. And maybe as the conversation moves forward, you'd like to probe me so that we create depth in our conversation.
I think over the last 15 years, definitely the word entrepreneurship has been signaling. Even for me, it's a long time coming, but not very familiar with the word. Like 15 years ago, I didn't even know what entrepreneurship was all about. And I think the journey is pretty much the same for many people who sort of encountered entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
So in the entrepreneurial landscape, there's few things that I feel, and definitely I think we need to sort of have more discussions, open conversations around it. Over the last, let's say, a decade in Bhutan, the whole driver on entrepreneurship has come forward, and also it has come up with a lot of challenges.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's also a bit of a confusion among a lot of people in terms of like, what is this whole entrepreneurship thing? Is it just meant for some people or is it for everybody? That's a question. And then also we have people talking about creating a business. And then we also have discussions around startups. So in your opinion, how would you like sort of classify and interpret in your own terms and in your own ways?
Okay. Well, this is how I see it. Entrepreneurship is not just restricted to business. Being enterprising, being entrepreneurial, you come across an obstacle and you are this solution-oriented individual where you want to solve this problem by being enterprising and not just put it aside. I think that is being entrepreneurial, an entrepreneurial society. But then again, you also take businesses and then you bring the entrepreneurial aspect of yourself. Then you can actually build up an enterprising, an entrepreneurial venture. Also, I am aware that now the Royal Government of Bhutan, specifically the Ministry of Industry, Commerce and Employment, they're actually coming out with a definition of what is a startup. But prior to that, a startup, cottage and small industry, small and medium enterprises, it was pretty much the same. And also within our own community, there were confusions. For example, in some of the countries, it's called the MSME policy, the micro, small, medium enterprises policy. But in Bhutan, we had the cottage and small industry, CSI, which you're very familiar with. In the 12 5-year plan, we had the flagship program for cottage and small industries. So there was no real differentiation, and the support that came together was a blanket, irrespective you're a small, medium enterprise or a startup. And the definition of startups or the understanding of the comprehension of a startup, I think it was not very clear. How we see startups is a business which is scalable, a business which is investable, and does it have to necessarily be international? Maybe not. It can be something national as well. But how it grows is very different. There are also individuals who are looking for self-employment. That's great as well, but that's a very different business to look at. You are a self-employing person, and you're not necessarily looking at scaling it up. But even this particular individual, given the right entrepreneurial context, and if the enabling environment, capacity building, and advocacy and awareness is there, then he or she, a self-employed individual, could actually gradually graduate and become an entrepreneur as well. So these are different lenses to look at. But I think the support that has come out has been, it's been more of a blanket. I'm also aware that in some countries, specifically, let me just try to state an example here. There's actually something called a J Startup program in Japan. They have identified in the tech space. Also within that tech space, they have subcategorized into 7 different programs, agri-tech, etc., etc. And then the support is very straightforward. If you are this, if you have MVP, and to create an MVP, we still have some sort of financing. That is pre-seed financing, the ideation stage. So the support that comes out is very straightforward. It also gives the clarity to the applicants. But now if I try to balance again, now I was sharing of that. And also specific to Bhutan, do we have the talent? I think we do. Is the talent necessarily polished? Maybe not. Could we do better? All of us could. Are we stuck somewhere? Maybe. And maybe now the question is there enough capacity building? And of course, our fellow stakeholders from the government and institutions might think that we have been spending a lot of money doing capacity building. I think we have done a lot in some spaces, but then again, I think it needs to be again targeted. We have done, for example, even for Loden, we have just seed financed. We seed finance up to $20,000. We also know that out of the 301, some of them are actually ready to scale up. They need more financing. Have we been able to give that? Not yet. Are we discussing and thinking about it? Yes. So I am assuming all of us have obstacles. And then, for example, for a business to scale up and for it to become investable, they need to get incorporated. The last I remember from the survey report of the industries, it basically said that there are about only 300 plus incorporated companies in the country, and 30 to 40,000 business license holders. So putting all these information together, the point that I'm trying to get here is interventions need to be classified now. It needs to be segregated. There needs to be some businesses which will be scalable globally,
And for them, probably they need higher investments. Now, when we talk about investments, it's also something about, do we let foreign investments come in? And when we let them come in, what are the different mechanisms or instruments, financial instruments in place? And what is locally available? Is what is locally available, is it enough? So I think these are all the questions we need to discuss on the bigger planes. And then also, I think at this point as a foundation, how I see is we have businesses which have taken 20,000 US dollars from us, started a business. Are they ready to take the couple of millions that the venture funds are ready to fund? No, there's a big gap there. There are so many businesses who are looking for maybe 50,000 US dollars or 100,000 US dollars or 200,000 US dollars. Are the big funds really interested in these small funds? They're necessarily not interested. So is there a role all of us could play as bureaucrats and as seed financing, non-profit sector, as even private citizens who actually hold deep pockets to come together and invest in our innovative ideas? I think these are big questions there. But then again, I'll also be very transparent again. Our own entrepreneurs are investable. Have we done enough to garner support and then make ourselves so refined that we are investable? I think this is a very tricky balance that we have not been able to find yet.
I think so much has been you put everything quite clearly in terms of entrepreneurship, the whole landscape of entrepreneurship, raising funds. I think what boils down is, why do you think entrepreneurship matters? Like, why do you think Bhutan should care about entrepreneurship? Maybe.
Well, I think the whole point at the end being entrepreneurial is mindset. And also having a local hero, let's say a local success. The general thought of a lot of Bhutanese, I think, which is not necessarily publicly shared, is, oh, we might not be able to do anything great. No. As much as we share it often, but there is also this very restricted thought of Bhutanese saying that, can a Bhutanese ever really go global and come up with a big company? I think these are not necessarily shared, but it's set somewhere in the back of our minds. We have sort of some reservations, and that is not, I'm not saying it's good or bad. The point I share it is, I think it's the mindset. And being entrepreneurial is probably the only way to actually have this chain effect of having one success and having a ripple effect on everybody else to become more entrepreneurial, rather changing their mindset from being able to, okay, so we are not, if something is not written in a book, for example, let's say, it does not mean we cannot do it. It means you're actually open to doing it. So I think changing this mindset of being entrepreneurial, that is going to be key.
This also reminds me of some of those reports that I came across. It says that there's no major economy in the world that hasn't adopted entrepreneurship as the way to develop. And it has been one of the most powerful ways of developing countries. So in that landscape, where do you think Bhutan, and where do you think, are we taking advantage of entrepreneurship? And also, as sometimes people perceive entrepreneurship as a way to sort of creating jobs, which is obviously true as well.
Yes.
And also as a way to, and sometimes, especially among policymakers, they think it's a solution. They think entrepreneurship can be created. I don't necessarily agree on that. I think the culture of entrepreneurship should be there, but more than that, I think the mindset is very important. So do you think Bhutan has leveraged the power of entrepreneurship enough in the last, let's say, 2 decades? Or should we do more? Or have we done enough? And I think we have fairly explained about Loden's role. Now as an entire ecosystem, now as you mentioned, Loden would probably play a small role in the ecosystem. Do you think the ecosystem has nurtured, or do you think the conditions have sort of improved or propelled for this ecosystem to thrive?
Well, definitely not thriving. Not putting the blame on anybody. I think it's society as a whole. That is who we are. Have we really capitalized and made the best of the opportunity? I don't think so. This is my personal take. And also I say it because none of us have really thrived. When an entrepreneurial ecosystem is thriving, which also again parallelly with a very robust economy. I know some of my friends who are founders. In 3 years' time, they actually make it into a global mark of having their companies listed in millions and somewhere close to billions as well.
some of these founders tried to enter a Bhutanese market. This was 3 years ago. And he was going through the battle of, should I enter Africa or should I enter Bhutan? And specifically, I think it was Kenya or Uganda. He came to Bhutan, he tried to do a proof of concept, and of course, with many reasons, from limited market to legislation to even, I think, repatriation of fund and bringing in fund. These are all the discussions that I remember clearly having with this individual. And I do not necessarily know what happened with him on his journey in Africa. And the next thing I know is he is flying his drones, putting up a sensor technology to figure out that there is a high mosquito infection in this particular country in Africa, and using AI tools to actually find stagnant water infested with mosquitoes and spray and kill the mosquitoes, and in a year's time, bring mosquito-related deaths to infections really low. And then he goes on to WHO pitching his idea in a global stage. And then next thing you know, he is actually $1 million company. And now the fact that it actually kicked off in Africa, being a bigger place, having a bigger population, or even finding the right cause for him to actually use this technology for. So keeping all these reasons back in his mind. But the point I'm trying to get at is a Japanese startup with all the support from the Ministry of Economic Trade and Industry, they actually gave the financing for this drone company to go out of Japan, because Japan, the market was limited. Mm-hmm. And in our sense, we look at Japan and say, oh, Japan is a big market. But for the Japanese, they started thinking Japan is a restricted market. They need to go beyond. It was becoming saturated. So then he saw two countries. He came in both, and to come into these countries, Ministry of Economic Trade and Industry gives the financing. He comes, he draws proof of concept in both countries, and as an entrepreneur, he realizes the greener pasture is in Africa. So he heads off there. And in 3 years, he's a millionaire. Now, if I ask you the question, do you know any entrepreneur from Bhutan in 3 years who have made it anywhere?
I don't think so.
We don't think so. So, so do I have the answers of what they did right, what we are doing wrong? I probably do not have it. I'm not a master at it. I do not necessarily know the details of it. But then again, when you actually juxtapose the story of a Bhutanese startup and a Japanese startup, when you see 3 years success with millions and us not being able to tap into that, so I think we have not been able to totally make use of the possibilities.
Where do you think, like in your opinion, maybe we may not be able to give answers right now, but where do you think are the barriers? Where do you think are the challenges that creates the inability of an entrepreneur? And also, do you think entrepreneurs have the right mindset put into it? Mm-hmm. Like, for example, we always look at the US Silicon Valley, but if you really look into the history of the Silicon Valley, it was the entire world was rushing into Silicon Valley because mm-hmm. everybody wanted to get rich. Mm-hmm. And the whole Silicon Valley was a gold mine. Mm-hmm. And that sort of, so it's in the DNA. Mm-hmm. So do you think, as Bhutanese, do you think we have that DNA? Mm-hmm. The shapes and the profiles might change, but mm-hmm. do you think we are built, or do you think we have the DNA of an entrepreneur? And and then also, if they created Silicon Valley, because Silicon Valley was not successful just because it was in the US, mm-hmm. I think they had the right mindset, mm-hmm. and also they created the condition, which mm-hmm. means anywhere, so every people in the world would flock to the Silicon Valley
yes.
to look for opportunities. Mm-hmm. And they found the recipe. So when you have the recipe, you take it anywhere. They could build this Silicon Valley anywhere in the world, right?
Yes.
So in Bhutan, where do you think are the barriers?
Okay.
Is it social? Is it cultural? Is it policy? Mm-hmm. Just from as an entrepreneur yourself. Okay. And also, do you think, you mentioned about thriving. Are we thriving? We're not, right? Mm-hmm. So where do you think entrepreneurs have the right mindset, mm-hmm. even the ones who are actually practicing entrepreneurship right now?
It's a difficult question, but I will take an attempt from my experience and the little that I know. Let me first start off as Bhutan as a country. Bhutan as a country, all of us travel out, and then the amazing thing that actually always comes back to us is, oh, you're the happiest country in the world. It took years, but with leadership, with the people manifesting,
and the whole country manifesting, we have got Bhutan, though not as per the World Happiness Index, the happiest, as the happiest country in the world. So have we been enterprising, entrepreneurial? I think we have. The whole paradigm of GNH came out because of the realization of the Great Fourth, thinking that the whole economic paradigm that the whole world was basically following, there must have been individuals questioning, but not world leaders questioning. So he basically brought in the paradigm shift, right? So which basically means that the mindset was very different. The leader had the mindset of being enterprising. There is a problem. There is a solution as well, and I'm going to come up with it. He came out with it. Have we been able to successfully let people know that this is who we are? We have. And in so many ways, because of this philosophy of GNH itself, I think it has actually become a part of our DNAs as well, right? I think Bhutanese, we are who we are at the moment, not just because of the culture and Buddhism and everything, but the idea of GNH, which consolidated what being a Bhutanese means. That gave us a sense of direction, and we have achieved that. So from that lens, I think we are entrepreneurial. As a country, we are. When it comes to individuals, I think that there is drive, definitely. But I'd like to go back to again Silicon Valley because you use that. Silicon Valley was just not necessarily something planned. No. The amazing people, the entrepreneurial individuals happened to be in that community. And then what happened was because there was talent, people from all around the world started flocking in. And that's when probably the people or the locality or the leaders of the locality figured that there is actually this growing trend of these intellects who wants to start coming to our place in the Silicon Valley. And then if we can be agile enough and conducive enough, we could actually let everybody come in. Because people with talent do not go looking for money. Money comes looking for the people with talent. So this is what they figured. It was simple. So in that sense, have we been able to find talent, curate talent, and create an enabling environment for talent? I think it's not happened. Also, maybe we started a little late. Also, I think we could also touch upon immigration in a way. If we do not necessarily have local talent here, I think places like Silicon Valley and all, it was never just the Americans who came to Silicon Valley. It was people from all around the world. We also know that attracting global talent. Now it could be attracting global talent in a virtual space, but then again also creating a hub for people, talents from all around the world to be able to actually come in a place that would definitely have some impacts on Umela. Being a very homogeneous society where it's just us, it's just Bhutanese, us, with very similar experiences, not much diversity of thoughts. Of course, some of the viewers or individuals might think that that's not exactly true. We have access to the internet and we can learn so many things on the internet. I think that internet is great. You can learn so much, but there's also always experiential learning. Being in a room, in one room with global talents, with different energy vibes is definitely something very different from learning things online. So we have not been able to do that. We have also not been able to, I think, give big dreams. We already know the bottlenecks when we start a business. For example, when you start a business, you would probably never think of going global. I would also put it on both sides of it, the supply and the demand side, because we know that there has been nobody who has gone global. The idea itself when you start up a business is to cater to something national. And we have not gone global because of so many reasons, from investments to talent to you name it, a lot of limitations. Can it be changed? Definitely, yes. Is it changing? I think so. But at the same time, a lot of us who have started businesses, we have not necessarily grown over time. I would also put a bit of our socio-cultural aspect of it. People take loans. Are we so financially disciplined, financially educated? Maybe not. No. People who take a loan and not necessarily spend it on the business. I remember one of the consultants who was in Bhutan living for a long time, and in one of his speeches, he ended with the analogy or an anecdote saying that in anywhere in the world, people would sell their cars to start up a business.
But in Bhutan, people would sell their business to buy a car because their neighbor bought a car. So I think these mindsets definitely needs to be changed. We could definitely do a lot on the front of financial discipline. And then a lot of our businesses, my friends who are watching doing business, I like to remind them, like, how many of us actually keep proper book of accounts? No. I think these are very basic disciplines that is required. But then again, I'm not trying to generalize that. I know there are so many businessmen out there, entrepreneurs, who do good business as well, keep good book of accounts. No. I think these are disciplines which are very necessary. It looks very small, but this is where the journey starts. So do we necessarily have all the discipline? I think all of this, be it financial, be it human relation, it boils down to discipline. To really discipline yourself, to think of yourself as a global leader, a global entrepreneurial leader. I think that we have not been able to instill that idea in our Bhutanese entrepreneurs. I'm not really sure whose job it is, but even as individuals, we have not achieved that, and as efforts of different institutions, we have not been able to instill that thought in many of the Bhutanese. This is what I feel.
I think the concept of success in Bhutan is very, very tricky. I personally believe success is a platform. It's not the end. And it should not be perceived. There should not be a perception of success. So I feel like in Bhutan, there's a lot of social, cultural aspects of influence as to what does success mean. In Bhutan, success means owning buildings and big cars. That's what we have been sort of probably told and validated by society. And also we have these little small nuances, like a very simple example would be like, even if you are eating and you are sweating and you say like, you're gonna really struggle in life, So these are little things that I think we, as in Bhutan, we really have to rethink the way we do things.
Yes.
And that success as an entrepreneur is for everyone. And anyone has the potential to be an entrepreneur at any point of their lives, right? So, and I think we should be more open. We shouldn't be in the state of denial, saying that we will be successful. But I think we should really open up, saying that there are little things. It adds up. I think it's 1% incremental changes will make compounding effect, and then brings about big change, right? And I think so definitely again the other dimension that we are now in is with His Majesty's visionary project in GMC. I really felt like personally for me it really validated the thing that I do, which is I believe in creating something out of nothing, and also the fact that to really challenge the whole hypothesis of that'll never work, that it can be, we can make it work, right? And even for me, it's I am that person who wants to make it happen, not someone who says like, what did just happen over here, or what if this happened? But I think I always strive to be that person who believes in what we can make it happen. Let's make it happen, right? So on that note, I think recently we were in the Bhutan Innovation Forum.
Yes.
And there was a lot of realization. There's so much of self-reflection, and that the desire for Bhutan to be successful. And for me, the whole concept of the Gelfo Mindfulness City and His Majesty's visionary concept of how Bhutan move forward, I found it amazing. Like it really inspires me as an entrepreneur. But then again, now as an entrepreneur in Bhutan, what do you think? Do you think it has rattled the whole entrepreneur ecosystem to really like overhaul and kickstart, or do you think we should really pull up our socks and do more?
Okay.
Well, what is your personal reflection?
Let's just try to share a little bit about BIF, Bhutan Innovation Forum. Personally, for me, what I realized was we were in a room with all these fund managers dealing with VC fund to private equity fund to social impact fund, so many types in one room, and being able to, because it's for Bhutan, so most of the individuals who came to this forum came with the mindset of wanting to be a part of the Bhutanese journey, which made it very easy for us to open up and ask questions. And we realized that they're talking about big funds, like a startup or an entrepreneur trying to unlock 1 million minimum, or 5 million and above, which not most of us are really prepared. So I was put up a question as in, Sangay, if you were to think of Bhutanese entrepreneurs who, if tomorrow I give you $5 million, would be able to make
10 times the money for me in the next 5 to 10 years. Can you think of anybody? Pardon me if it was my limitation with the human intelligence that I held. I could so think of people in my network, and it was very difficult to come up with a list. So it gave me thoughts into, okay, so this is the scene. So there is money out there. Of course, we always thought about the questions of do we have the legislation in place? Do we have all these necessary, conducive environment to bring this money in? We have a lot of bottlenecks there as well. But then again, it also kindled this idea of have we nurtured our talent? Have we scaled up our talent? Do we have the talent? Yes. Have we nurtured them enough? Probably not. No, have we as individuals nurtured ourselves enough? Maybe not. These were, I think, silver linings which was coming out. But then again, we juxtapose this idea of where Bhutan is right now, and then His Majesty's vision of the Gellifu Mindfulness City, which is ultimately for all of us. And it sort of gives you a bit of a jolt, a worry as well, because for now, there are board of directors with different expertise from all around the world sitting on the GMC board. We also, I think we are also aware that over a period of time, there'll be a transition and the Bhutanese will have to take over. But for us to take over or to be a part of the board, which can be a mix, we need to have talent. We need to have Bhutanese who have done it, been there, done that, knows about it. And then we can actually be at the table having our say. But when you haven't done enough, if you're put on the table, then you have nothing much to say. So these are journeys that Bhutan is going through. It's not about is it going to happen, it's already happening. So for me, these are some worries. And then I went back to the foundation at Loden, and with my board directors, I was sharing that for us, I think maybe the next task is to start grooming our Bhutanese entrepreneurs so that 10, 15 years down the line, there could be one or two of our Bhutanese entrepreneurs who could be sitting on this table and representing Bhutan for the GMC. I think these are quite immediate tasks that any organization could work together to start working towards building this talent capacity. Of course, there are questions of where do the entrepreneurs fit in GMC. I think that's a lot of questions that everybody has, which I feel will become clearer as we move forward. It's a very big task. And especially people who have been on an entrepreneurial journey themselves, we know that agility is the key. What we think right today is with more information, maybe it's not the right decision tomorrow. And to stick by the wrong decision tomorrow after getting new information, you're not being entrepreneurial. So this entrepreneurial journey is really about the agility, and then your agility, and then I call it the value constellation. So the more value, human resource to money to everything you bring onto the table, your game plan just changes. You were playing the game right here, and then you realize that I have actually been able to garner more support. Now my game plan and my benchmark has to increase. So this is going to be very volatile. It's going to be very agile. This is what I feel, and then which will actually translate to a lot of Bhutanese local entrepreneurs, our friends, might be getting confused, as in there is no clarity. But then again, what is clear is it is going to be a city of innovation, knowledge, creativity, and if you make yourself enterprising enough, there is definitely going to be a space. So it is not necessarily about, okay, what exactly am I going to do there? But it is really about building the entrepreneurial side in you, and then everything will fall into place. This is my personal take at the moment. But yes, I think this is the biggest venture that Bhutan has taken. The biggest venture Bhutan has taken, probably the biggest venture that will last for a long time. And as much as there are so many questions, but it also brings in a lot of excitement for an individual like myself and at Loden Foundation. Has it really created a wave within the Bhutanese entrepreneurial community? I would say it's confusing. Partly there is excitement, thinking what could the opportunities be, but partly there is also a bit of a confusion, as in what is that opportunity going to be.
That's my take.
Just to wrap it up, I think the entrepreneurial mindset. I think Bhutan, personally, I feel that our education system needs to really rethink into the way we teach our children, really thinking out of the box,
Yes.
not just teaching in classroom, but what can you do out the knowledge beyond the classroom activity, because that will eventually culminate into, as an entrepreneur, as that individual, and it will probably mean Lego blocks even for something like GMC, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, this is something that I usually ask people, like, so for you, Sangay, what would you advise to this 20-year-old Sangay who just started maybe 15 years ago, when you just thought about doing something different, what would you advise now that you'd be willing to listen to?
Start early. And before I go into that, I agree with you on education. I think education definitely plays a big role. And when I talk about education, it's not just about education in school. I think parenting, families, to school, to teachers, to curriculum, everything matters. No, no. Also, extra co-curricular activities like entrepreneurs clubs, which are actually around, but taking it a little more seriously and really trying to instill the entrepreneurial aspect in individuals. I think this will definitely go a long way. For the population which is in the education system, definitely with the changes, there will be changes in how they grow up. But for individuals who are out of colleges and actually already going through work life now, who have started the ventures, my request to individuals who are listening out there would be to come together to start up blended incubation acceleration programs by the Bhutanese. We know that there are acceleration programs being supported by our development partners, which is very good. It's helpful. But then again, with a national vision, something Bhutanese. I think in this immediate future for the next 10, 15 years, while we wait for the younger generations to come out of the education system as entrepreneurial beings, but for the ones who have actually come out of it, there is definitely a need for such a targeted incubation and acceleration program. And here, I think at the end of the day, even for very successful countries around the world, there are entrepreneurs of different varying kinds. There are entrepreneurs who have made impact. There are some entrepreneurs who have gone global. And from Bhutan, I think we do not necessarily have to have everybody going global. I think it's going to be impossible to have everybody, like 100, 1,000 of our entrepreneurs going global. If we have 1 to 5 to 10 actually going global, that's a very big thing for Bhutan. So very staggered approach towards how we see things. And accordingly, having plans of blended incubation and acceleration programs, but also understand that just running the program is not going to assist. Programs basically builds the capacity, but then again, with capacity, we need to also have money in place. At the moment, as much as I've bought about I have pretty much bought about the negativities, or rather the failures of what we have not done right. But then again, I'd also like to end on a positive note that despite all the difficulties, getting a business license, which has become much more simplified now, to actually running the whole show, and then getting the finances, going to a bank, getting a loan, all this being done by a founder, one individual, it's a very difficult journey as well. With all these decisions and then the assistance and support you have to, as a lone founder, you have to do it yourself. It's a very difficult task. It actually eats up a lot of your time and the energy, and when your steam is lost, you basically lose it. So keeping that in perspective, I think all the survivors, the entrepreneurs, individuals who call themselves entrepreneurs in Bhutan, a lot of respect for all of them. It has taken a lot out of them to start something and to be doing what they're doing. But with having covered that, I'd like to share that if I were to tell myself, the 20-year-old Sangay, what I should be doing, I should definitely become part of global community. There are so many global incubation programs out there who basically opens up your thought process. Uh, I think day one, if you start thinking global, it makes you a very different person, your experience. Uh, Over the years, we have encountered a lot of Singaporeans. No, no. Whenever we talk to a Singaporean, my first question is, what made you think global? And they just said that we had no option. Singapore was so small, there was no local market. So day one, we started thinking global. And then I started reflecting and I realized that it's the same for Bhutan. Our local market is so small, but unlike the Singaporeans, we did not think global from day one. Knowing that Bhutan is a small market, we are still thinking local. So I think to remind ourselves that and to actually introspect and figure out what kind of a person you are, right? You could be a person who runs a small business and be very happy about it. You could also be this individual who wants to make a global mark, or you could be this person who wants to be a corporate leader. So I think these are, of course, we have done career counseling in schools, but the journey needs to be beyond just somebody asking you and probing you. But an individual, if you think that you're meant to be an entrepreneur, really asking yourself. And then one request is individuals like yourself, myself, a lot of us, we have formed a lot of associations. We have the Association of Bhutanese Cottage and Small Industries, we have the Loden community, and we have a lot of different incubation units in RUB colleges. MOIS has attempts of starting up a startup culture here. So ride on what is already existing. Do not try to stay away from it. Being a part of the community really helps. And being alone, I think it's already a very difficult journey starting up an entrepreneurial community in Bhutan, and trying to do it alone is definitely not going to help. So yeah, that's about it.
I think on that note, we finally come to the end of our session, and I think the key takeaways are from our conversation was that entrepreneurship is hard. It's a difficult journey, but it's a choice, and we, like, even for me as an entrepreneur, I am an entrepreneur because I wanted to sort of design my own job, because I was never happy with the jobs I was doing, or I was trying to do some things. So it is about designing your own own life, I guess. And now I feel very happy that I can live the life that I want to live. So I think it is possible to be an entrepreneur. I'm not necessarily saying successful entrepreneur. Like I said, success is just a platform. How you play with it, it really depends on the individual and how you look at it. But definitely we need to have more conversations. And entrepreneurship is open for everybody. And I think anyone, as long as you're willing to innovate, as long as you have the grit and the resilience, you have a shot at entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship may not be for everyone. True. Because, like I said, it's hard, but it's a beautiful journey, especially for me. So on that note, thank you very much. And we have these sessions once in a while, and we'd like to have you again on a different note. Maybe delve deeper into, our own entrepreneurial journeys. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And before we end it, I just got back from because you said about entrepreneurship being open to everybody. Sometimes we just relate, there's this limitation that entrepreneurship is for business. And specifically, again, we go into tech, because tech is a scalable business. I just returned from an international conference of a family who is trying to put together social innovators, social entrepreneurs. The idea is there is so much discussion on entrepreneurship and economy, to a point where some of these big families with deep pockets are discussing that entrepreneurship can also be in the space of the sociocultural aspect, and that is not necessarily being discussed. So there are individuals out there having bigger ideas on also unlocking the social entrepreneurial aspect. And this is something that Loden has been trying to champion, social enterprises. But it's actually going beyond just social enterprises, social businesses. It is really talking about how can you be an entrepreneur who changes communities through sociocultural engagement. So such discussions are there. So please do not limit yourself thinking that
entrepreneurs are just businessmen. I think it's way beyond that. And at Loden, we are trying to take an attempt. This is an attempt, and I share this thinking that if anybody out there feels that they want to be a part of the journey, we are in the process of establishing a center for entrepreneurship. We know that there are so many entrepreneurial effort that so many different agencies are putting in, but we want to try to bring together all these efforts. And under the center, we are looking at starting up a blended incubation acceleration program. Look for about 10 to 20, depending on how much money we can raise. 10 to 20 enterprises from within Loden and outside Loden ecosystem, and then have a curated session on grooming them and make them basically more disciplined and investable. And by the by, parallelly also try to set up a venture fund so that as they try to scale up through the incubation and acceleration program, when they actually need to access finance, they do not necessarily have to go look for debt financing at first. Use the financing to grow their business, and once they have reached a certain point, also try to bridge them to different financing sources. This is an attempt. Not really sure how fast or successful we might be able to pull it off, but with the intent of us starting it, I'm sharing it here so that more people can join our journey.
Thank you. So I believe the name of the game is collaboration.
Yes.
And on that note, thank you again once. Thank you.
That's it.